This episode of Lambdas Who Roll Live is brought to you by Revo Knives and Blade Runner Systems. Reliability, performance, design, and value. These are the components that make a great knife. Check out their amazing line of products at revoknives.com and bladerunnersystems.com. Be sure to follow them on Instagram at Revo Knives and bladerunnersystems.com. And now on to the show. All right, everybody, welcome back to another Sunday edition of Lambdas Who Roll Live, episode 32. I'm your host, Hernan, with my co-host, Fernando, Diego, and a special co-host for today, Lawrence. What's going on, fellas? How you doing?
Yeah,
What's going on?
We're doing
what's
good.
going on,
Thanks for
Lawrence?
having me.
All right, man. How's everybody doing today, bro?
Everybody's
Good?
good.
Yeah, doing really
Good.
good.
Awesome, man.
Awesome. So every week, or whatever, for the most part, we do our little training log, and I think it'll be good to do one, especially since we all shared a common event yesterday. And it'll be good to hear Lawrence's training log for this week as well, if you got some classes in. So let's go around the room. Fernando, what was your log like this week?
I was able to get two classes in at my gym, Capital MMA. We were working a lot on we were working primarily on De La Riva guard,
Oh, nice.
which
Okay.
was a lot of fun. A lot of nuances that I kind of missed because I remember learning it in the past, and I just was like, oh man, I'm not athletic enough to do this, But it's just like it's going over the detail, and I guess as I'm starting to like understand and pick up things, not quickly, but like starting to understand more. I was able, I'm able to was able to perform it and was able to do some sweeps off of it. So it was a lot of fun. And then yeah, yesterday the half guard seminar with Coach Hernan and Coach Diego. And that was another guard. That wasn't the best, always getting smashed or cross face. So like a little technique and details that like Diego has showed me you know hopefully I'll start to implement that to my game as well, because I believe that guard might be best for like my physical abilities as
Nice.
I get older.
What was your greatest
Same.
takeaway of yesterday's seminar?
The takeaway,
Yeah, the greatest takeaway you had.
I enjoyed like the sweeps, the coyote sweep. I didn't try the Shaolin because like I was scared I was gonna blow out my knee.
Mm.
It wasn't as
It is a little awkward.
yeah.
It is a little awkward.
That was one of the takeaways. Also, too, like just like uh, a little, a little, I guess, micro adjustment that Diego has shown me with my shoulder that he had learned. Kind of, you know, like when I was trying to like flatten Diego out, it was like almost as if I was like moving furniture. It was like he wasn't going down; he was just
Thank you,
going.
brother.
Yeah,
Thank you, man.
so I'm not saying that you're heavy or anything like that, but yeah, those were like my takeaways. Like those little nuances and techniques.
Nice,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome,
Diego, what was your training log like this week?
Uh, I mean, I got to train a few times before going out to Maryland. I actually got invited to train in Hoboken Jiu-Jitsu or Hoboken
Yeah.
with Dan Covell.
Nice.
A very nice class, man. Really awesome instructor. So I had fun with that. Got smashed by a huge cyborg black belt. But yeah, man, it was an awesome time. So it was a fun week, and then yesterday, it was a great time sharing. The half guard in the half guard seminar.
What'd you think of the energy
Yep.
yesterday in the seminar? Like, you think?
I was great. I mean, it's always tough to be in that spotlight. You know what I mean? To make sure that you're answering all the questions or covering all the details as much as possible. And then in your head, if something comes up and you want to like add to it, but you can't go off track, and so it's a little bit challenging on that end. But I had fun, man. It was really nice to see a lot of people there. So I had a great time.
Nice, nice. So, Lawrence, you are a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu blue belt, right?
Correct.
Awesome. How long have you been training?
I started in 2017, kind of late 2017, and then I very quickly got pretty badly injured, like
Oh, man.
maybe a couple months into my training, and I
What kind
skipped
of
like
injury?
I got put in an arm bar, and I guess like it was the perfect storm. The guy went back really fast, and I resisted really fast, and it severed this muscle here.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And I didn't know it was that bad until I was like, oh, I'll just let it heal or whatever, and it wasn't getting better. Like a couple months later, and I started seeing it was like growing back, all deformed, and I couldn't do anything. So eventually got an MRI. I got physical therapy, and in therapy, they're like, yeah, if you had come in as soon as it happened, they probably would have elected to do surgery. It was like that bad of a tear. But after physical therapy and everything, it actually healed back to the point where the strength is, it looks weird, but the strength is there and everything, and kind of made me a little gun shy to go back to training. So I probably missed a good, I don't know, 7-8 months because of that. And then picked up again, went for a good, I guess, year and a half, and then COVID obviously happened. And then I moved, and that's actually when I started training with Rollstar.
That's what's up, man. So how's your love? What's your training schedule like? Like, how was it this week?
This week was pretty good. I would have liked to get more classes in, but I did Monday open mat, Friday morning open mat, and then I did the class with Professor O Saturday, no gi. So that was nice. I would have liked to fit in one extra session, at least one extra class, but I was pretty happy with getting a lot of rolls in and getting a lot of conditioning in. So that was definitely good.
Awesome.
Well, Lawrence, if I can jump in for a second. So like once you got that injury, what made you decide to come back? You know, you said you was gun shy at first.
You know, I guess like I'm kind of I didn't want to like quit on myself, and I didn't want to let that discourage me from something that I felt had a lot of positive potential. You know, when I started rolling, it kind of reminded me of when I used to wrestle, and I was looking for a martial art that not only could I learn, but I could actually execute and spar and really test my limits, right, on like a very live and realistic level. You can't that same gym did boxing, kickboxing, and I was doing that. I was actually doing that for a couple of years before I even started jiu-jitsu seriously. But the problem with those martial arts is you can't truly test your limits, right? Like you can't just continuously take hits to your head or even your body. It's just too damaging. So you'll never really know. And I had no intention of, you know, competing amateur in boxing or any of that stuff. So jiu-jitsu seemed like the perfect fit. So I didn't want to let that injury stop me from doing something that I felt was that I wanted to pursue, and something that I really did want to, you know, climb up the ranks and get better at.
You the other day you went back to the MMA class. Remember and you said the intensity for, you know, now you're training jiu-jitsu for some time, and you know we have a few good rounds at the school, and then you went over to visit and you had the MMA training. You know, the intensity, what was the difference on that?
I think that the difference was, so apparently it wasn't just, I thought it was going to be MMA, like we'll hit some pads or whatever, but it was the comp team. So everyone there, maybe not everyone, but the large majority of people there are either pro or they're fighting amateur. So it's super, super competitive, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if they saw me, they're like, oh yeah, there's another guy who's like, you know, competing or whatever. Just the physicality of it was very intense, and the guys there are, you know, it's a younger crowd, so they tend just to be a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more physical. I guess like the actual drills and everything that we were doing were very similar to jiu-jitsu. It was like clenching from the back and taking people down and controlling on the floor, stuff like that. But it was like the same drill just over and over and over and over again. And with people pretty much trying to kill each other. So it was just that intensity that, and I had done the morning session too at Rollstar.
Right. Yeah.
So I was already kind of like burnt out. So that was the main difference. I think it was just everyone really wanting to win every single round. That made it a little bit different.
Stay at Rollstar where we're old and we don't have that same energy.
No, so. there's people who definitely bring the energy for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
But I know it's a huge difference. I know, like, when it comes to stand up, even wrestling, and you're going into like a competition, you stand for the first few seconds or minutes, it's very exhausting. So I could
Yeah,
definitely can see the difference, and you
yeah.
know, but that's what's up, man. That's cool.
That's awesome, man. It sounds like you're getting it in. You have like highs and lows. I mean, was this like your typical week? Like, is your week usually this intense?
Since Diego introduced the Monday and Wednesday class, if I could train every single day and my body could handle it, I would love to do that.
That's
and
all
if
of
my
us, right?
schedule would allow me to do it, I would
Yeah.
love to do that. But between the schedule and work, and then just me not being able to do it, every single day.
Yeah, it's tough, man.
Yeah, it's really, really tough. But the Monday and Wednesday is kind of nice because it's during the day, so it doesn't conflict with with anything. So I'm able to get at least 1 or 2 extra sessions in, and it's pretty I think it's a pretty good mix. Like we do roll the whole time, but we also cover a lot of questions too.
Yeah.
So you roll, you get a little bit of a break. We talk about what happened in the roll, then you go roll again. So it's a nicely paced open mat. It's kind of like half class, half open mat, more like analysis. That's why I really like it. And I think ideally, if I could do every other day, that would be perfect for my body and my schedule. I've had weeks where I've gone 4 or 5 days in a row, and man, by
you feel it.
By day 3, 4, it's
don't want to go there.
Yeah.
Or the dump, right? Or the dump at the end of the week, right? You have those 4 or 5 days of fire, and at the end it's just a huge dump that sometimes takes you longer than 4 or 5 days to recover.
Yeah.
The week before, I don't know what it was. It was either the week before or the previous. I got in a lot of sessions because you had started those Mondays and Wednesdays, and I remember by the fifth or sixth day, I was rolling. I remember it was gi, and I was so exhausted that I'm like, I don't really even know if I'm getting anything out of the roll, because at this point I'm like, I'm just gonna shell up and kind of, I don't even know if I'd call it defending. Right. It's more like I'm just shelling up and hoping nothing bad happens. And I'm like, at that point, am I really getting anything on the roll? And also at that point, you're a little bit more susceptible to injury.
Yeah, exactly.
It's okay to roll. It's good to roll exhausted. Professor O was talking about that yesterday. Like, hey, you guys got to roll exhausted sometimes to test yourself.
He says it because he's never exhausted.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think that is important. But I think there's also a difference when you're so done that mentally you're not there. And I think when mentally you check out, you gotta be a little bit more careful, especially when you get a little bit older, right? So I'm not young anymore. I just turned 42, so it's a little bit different. I think if you're in your 20s, early 30s, you should push through that. You have the capability, but when you're a little bit older, maybe a little bit more injury prone or whatever the case is, you have to listen to your body. I think that becomes even more and more important.
That's the moment that you made the Escape 101 meme.
Yeah.
Gotta push through.
Yeah.
All muscle,
all day.
No technique. There's no
technique. That's
technique.
probably why I'm exhausted.
So today's theme for the podcast was weapons and jiu-jitsu, and we introduced the segment today, sponsored today by Revo Knives and Blade Runners Systems, and that's actually your company, right?
Yes.
Blade
Runners was started over 10 years ago now.
Wow.
So we've been doing that for a while, and Revo's actually we founded that in 2017, so it's been close to 5 years now.
Nice.
And I think the last couple of years we've really picked up momentum. Obviously 2020 slowed us down a bit, but now we're picking back up, and it's a really good and exciting time.
That's
why knives? Why?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? I was always a knife nut as a kid. I was just into them. I always got the military catalogs, go to the flea market.
The Ninja Stars.
Yeah, the Ninja Stars. I had all that stuff, and I collected them back then. I kind of fell out of it, and I remember in 2006 when YouTube was starting to pick up steam. I just ran across a knife review and it like completely re-sparked. I was like, oh man, I just watched knife review after knife review. I think within that month I had bought 5 knives because I just like got right back into it. And then I found I used to just take my knife and just open and close it. It was like a fidget thing for me, right? And I saw the butterfly knife. I'm like, oh, that's even more perfect because you can do all kinds of tricks and fidget with it all in an infinite amount of ways. I found my way into a butterfly knife forum. It's not even like around anymore. Met a bunch of people online that just had the same weird passion. And that's where I met my business partner, Ed, right? And he hits me up one day and he's like, hey, listen, I got in contact with Kershaw, which is they're probably one of the top 5 knife companies in the world. They're huge. It's like, I got in touch with like the VP, really high executive. And I suggested to them that we'll design a butterfly knife for them. That's like meant for performance and tricks and everything. And the guy took my call and he's actually interested. So do you want to help me design this? And at the time, I had no experience designing. I had no experience with CAD or any of that stuff. So more or less, I knew what I wanted out of the product. And it was basically like a napkin sketch. I used MS Paint. It was so unprofessional, but I made this whole thing. I'm like, this is how it should be and whatever. And they actually assigned an engineer to it. They even molded a part. And it was about to go to production. This went on for about a year. But at the last minute, they're like, look, our production schedule is just too busy. We can't do it. So we said, all right, well, if you don't care, we'd like to take our design back and we'd like to pursue it ourselves. So we did that. We made a very small batch and they all sold out very quickly. Eventually we made, our first batch was 12, then we made 20. And then we went into bigger production. We made 200. And the rest is history. It kind of just grew from there.
So was it that we kept on reproducing that same product, that same?
We had started with one model, this one here, which is the Alpha Beast, and then we went on. I think 2 years later, we made the Replicant, and then from there we made a couple other models. But it's primarily been 3 models and variants of them so far. A couple of years ago, we started going into folding knives and other types of knives, and that's Blade Runner. So we're really known Blade Runners for the butterfly knives. Revo, though, we started that because we're like, well, Blade Runners is not a cheap brand. I mean, some of our knives are well over $500, right? So
wow.
Not everyone has money for that. So we started a more high value but budget friendly brand in Revo because we wanted to appeal to everyone and we wanted to start getting into the outdoor camping market, stuff like that. So that's where Revo started. We said, let's give it its own brand identity. Let's target the masses and go that route.
That's nice, man. So so where did the names come from? So Blade Runners. It sounds like Blade Runners was first. Revo was second. Where did Blade Runners come from?
Ed and I are kind of like science fiction nerds. So we love, the Alien series, Predator, all that stuff. And we're big fans of Blade Runner, the movie. So we were just thinking of names. And I think it was Ed, actually. He first designed this logo that was like the owl from that movie. And it looked really cool. And he's like, this is kind of a cool logo, but why not Blade Runner's Systems? Kind of an homage to the original movie. So that's kind of where that came from. And a lot of our graphics and marketing is all influenced from Alien and Predator and Blade Runners, and like this knife is called the Replicant, right? Kind of from the movie. So it's a lot of comic book influence. He's a big comic book fan, so a lot of it has influence from different comic book cultures and stuff like that.
That's nice, man. When it comes to so when it comes to Revo, I know that's and I know you mentioned that you do you do go to like the consumer, directly to the consumer, to the I think you mentioned you have like camping equipment and things like that, or knives for camping. Is that something that is as popular or both as popular, or which one is
They're both kind of popular. You know, Revo kind of for the butterfly knife. This is a very niche market, right? There's a very specific people looking for that. It's collectors. It's people who actually flip them, compete, perform tricks, stuff like that. It's our demographic for Blade Runners is very young, and not that you can't use these for everyday use, camping or whatever, but you know they're obviously designed in a way that's meant more for performance. The camping and outdoor crowd is like a totally different audience. So that's why like we have this big old knife here that appeals to like the camping audience. It allowed us to kind of like go into many different segments, like people who are into fishing, people who are into hiking, people who are, you know, you can
awesome.
It just allowed us to kind of reach an entirely different demographic, a broader thing. And we've always wanted to appeal to like an outdoor lifestyle. You know, a lot of our brands are based around lifestyle, we don't just want to be a knife company. We want to kind of be more of a lifestyle brand. So
now let me I know this may be a little bit off in terms of what we but hopefully can benefit. You know how they say, you know, when you love something and you enjoy it, you know, then you make it into a business, it kind of like goes down because, you know, there's different things involved now, right? Like the passion for something that you had, you know, now there's business involved, now there's money involved, now there's growth involved in that. And how your passion for knives, you know, sparked up again. Do you feel that as a business now, do you have the same spark? Do you have more or less? Like, how does that play with the love of the knives?
That's a really good question, because I'll tell you, after like we do a trade show and those just like wipe us out, like I don't want to look at a knife. I don't want to talk about knives. If I go out to like dinner with someone, they're like, and they bring up a question about a knife, I'm just like, dude, that's the last thing I want to talk about. So I guess in that respect, yeah, you can get a little bit burnt out, but I think my passion, it's kind of even more fun because now I can be the one who influences the design of the knife, right? So it's like my passion, but my creativity can also be expressed in creating something that eventually is going to be a tangible product that people can actually use. So I think in that respect, it's definitely sparked it. But I'll be honest, like I won't go online and shop for knives now because I have probably 50 knives just on my desk right now. I'm just drowning in them. There's prototypes and inventory everywhere. So, you know, if I go into a knife show or a store, I'm a little bit less inclined to buy one for myself, but I'm more drawn to it because now I'm studying it from an angle of like, oh, what would make this more functional? What are people looking for? How can I make this a better, more functional product on the campsite, on the street? How could I carry this better? What would appeal to me and what would appeal to people? So it's like it's a different level of interest. It's more intricate. It's more analytical, right? So I would imagine that's kind of akin to, you know, maybe when you start jiu-jitsu, it's just like everything's really, it's all fascinating, but then as you get more advanced, you can do like deeper dives into technique and really see the intricacies of every single nuance and every single move. So your passion is always high, but your passion changes, right? It morphs in the way it takes form.
Nice, man. So when you're doing, so now you're doing that, just because we're on that topic, you know, do you still go through that research and, you know, upgrading and designing and you know, even now, or like are you at a point where
I have when I started Blade Runners, I was primarily me and Ed were designing everything. Pretty much every butterfly knife was designed by us from the ground up. With Revo, I have a third partner, Thomas, and he's actually a product engineer by trade. He went to school for it. He's like a really brilliant designer. So he handles more of the design work. There's a couple knives that I had sketched up, but he will bring, he'll do the final
Bring it to
mile
life.
where,
Yeah.
he'll bring it to life. So it's actually a manufacturable product so that, you can
That's cool.
put it in a machine and actually make it.
That's awesome. Are you outsourcing like the production? Are you doing it or here?
Right
How's that
now
work?
we're outsourcing everything. We have a factory in the USA to make all the butterfly knives, just because you have to make those type of knives in the United States. You're not allowed to import them. And the folders are manufactured overseas. So we have both. We do imports and we also make stuff here. But we just recently got our first CNC machine in Colorado. So now we're going to actually have our own machine shop as well to make domestic product.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, man. So just to kind of add to, I know Lawrence, you gave me one as a gift. I appreciate it, man. And honestly, just not because it's you. I mean, I would definitely criticize it, but very good quality. Just the and the way that the safety is there, right? The quality is there. Just the handle. The look is very sleek. So I guess, I mean, I'm not a knife person, but just to see it as a whether it be like, again, as a gift, the packaging, all that is great. So if anybody's out there listening and like and they want to check out, very good quality, very good product. So very big shout out to both your projects.
Yeah.
I
So
appreciate that. Sure.
Absolutely.
so you mentioned that there's actually like competitions about this. So I'm going to share my screen real quick, and I want you to tell me what's going on right here, and how this this what you're doing in this really kind of feeds into, I guess, the knife culture that you're part of. So here we go. Let me share my screen with you. All right, let me know if you guys can see it.
Yeah.
You got it?
Oh, wow.
see
That's
it?
from a while ago. Yeah, I can see
Yeah.
it.
All right, here
Oh,
we go. I'm gonna play it. I got two screens now, so I can actually see what we're casting and what we have. So I'm more high tech this week, so it's pretty cool that I can actually see what I'm showing. So here we go. I'd be afraid to cut my fingers, bro. Honestly.
This was
This is
how
actually
long? How
like
long ago?
this is like a horrible freestyle. I don't even know why I posted this. This is terrible. So
Yeah,
I
we
wish you
should-
had picked someone who actually can flow a little bit better. Okay, I pick it up a little bit here.
But this
And
was
That looks nasty, man. Honestly, like I don't think
listen,
I could ever
man.
do that, man.
You're talking to three people who probably can't even
well,
open it.
I
you
drop
know
the
how
knife every single
We'll
time.
be doing that the whole
you know
time.
how like if you compare jiu-jitsu what it is today to like I don't know in the 80s 90s or even early 2000s, it's like light years ahead, right? I mean the technique and the talent has just like exploded, right? So that's the same thing for flipping, in the same way that YouTube has spread all these techniques to the world in jiu-jitsu, and people are just there's like BJJ fanatics, and you can do like live classes and stuff through video conferences and all this stuff. And I just think the knowledge is spreading so much faster that makes people advance way faster. That's the same thing for flipping. So if you rewind back to 2006 when I started getting back to knives, there were butterfly knives were like the black sheep in the knife community. And the tricks that were done back then were like today would be like beginners. No lie, I went to a knife meet, and this guy, his son was 9 years old, and he had one of our knives sharp. It wasn't a trainer. Like this thing was razor sharp, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I love this knife." He picked it up and he started flipping like just mind blowing. I mean, way better than I could probably ever become. Just a prodigy. And you see this when we go to these knife shows, these big ones. Our audience, like I said before, they're super young. These kids are like 14, 15, and we host a competition in Atlanta. Like 42 people compete, and most of them are young, and they kill it because everything's developed and advanced so much.
So I'm showing another one from your website, and I just picked one that just kind of came up, and
this is This guy's
Gotcha.
really good. I've known this guy for probably more than 10 years, actually. He was one of the OGs from back in the day. And his style has really kind of kept the same. He does a lot of transfers. When you see him go from hand to hand,
Yeah.
those are called transfers, but he does it in a very stylish way. He's got a lot of good flow. He doesn't use like really big, fancy, super fancy technical tricks, but he's just like crazy fluid in how he goes back and forth.
So
And
technically, if he doesn't know how to handle it, or anybody for that matter, can you come out like with like cuts and all that, like as you're doing it, or
oh
is it
yeah,
okay? Is it
I
not? Because
I
it
used to
doesn't seem
have
like it's
like
touch. I mean, obviously he's doing it with a flow, but I'm sure that if it's close enough to your, because and I remember now that you're talking about it, back in the day, butterfly knives were the ones that you see on what is it on those movies, right? It's like
yeah,
East, what is it, the West Side Story, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
those
It
type
was
of things.
always yeah.
And like you said, the black sheep, it was like you couldn't you really couldn't walk around with a butterfly knife.
It
Were they
gets
illegal? Like they were illegal, right? uh,
they still
or no?
are in many states. They're technically
Sorry, Lauren,
illegal in
sorry, we
Jersey.
can. Sorry, man.
They're tech. I mean, they're legal to own, but
Right.
I don't think you're allowed to in many states
Yeah,
carry
to
them.
carry. Yeah,
Yeah, you can own them. I think that's allowed in pretty much every state because obviously people buy and trade them. We're out selling them in the middle
yeah,
of shows and everything all the time, so
right.
that's not a problem. But carrying it is a legal issue that you got to look at state to state. But yeah, and then as far as cuts go, yeah, like I don't flip as much now, but when I was super into it, my hands were just chopped up. I mean, there's band-aids on them all the time, all the time. The last show we did, I think like 3 people end up with stitches. Not at the competition, not at the not the competition we hosted, but just they're flipping them around, and yeah, like people definitely get cut up.
So do they consider, I mean, people who are really passionate about this, do they consider this kind of a sport type of thing? Are they actually training, preparing? Obviously, they have to continue to use it. The more you use it, the better you get. And you're talking about competitions. What's the ultimate prize at these competitions? How does that whole thing work?
So the Bali comp, the one that we've done in Atlanta, the prizes are pretty good. We get a bunch of sponsors. So first prize gets like a bunch of high-end knives. We also sponsor them too, so they get a sponsorship from the company where they get hooked up with a bunch of merchandise, and they get like to spend a couple $100 on our website, stuff like that. So it's pretty cool. And as far as if there's a debate if they consider it a sport or an art. I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's a sport in the sense that you do have to actually practice and train and develop technique and be super clean if you want to compete. Just like in jiu-jitsu, you gotta drill, right? And that's the same thing in flipping. You got to drill it over and over and over again to be consistent. But it's also an art because at the end of the day, it's kind of an expression of your own style, the way you string things together. If you look at like one flipper compared to the next, we might be doing the same trick, but it looks totally different.
Right. It kind of like breakdancing. It kind of reminds me of
yeah, it really is. Yeah, it is like breakdancing for sure.
That's
Can you tell us like the scoring criteria and in these competitions, like Hernan said, like breakdancing, is there like, are you flowing with like a soundtrack or something like that? Is it like a kind of like
we play music in the background in the competitions, but the scoring in that competition, there's 3 judges, and then whoever gets the best 2 out of 3 votes advances. When we do them online, though, sometimes what we'll do is public poll. So people will just vote for. That's how we used to do it back in the day. It'd just be a forum poll, and you would vote on who won and who lost.
That's awesome, man. That's pretty.
So we're I guess being that the topic, right? We're talking about jiu-jitsu. We have jiu-jitsu in our we all train, and I guess a segment into and I want to actually ask both of you, Fernando and Lawrence, in terms of now when it comes to jiu-jitsu and self-defense, right? We have jiu-jitsu as a complete way to feel comfortable, to feel confident, and all that. we learn how to stand. We learn how to do. I mean, on the ground is our main component, but we show, or we try to encourage standing as well, right? But now we have a certain limit, right? So let's say as a black belt, I mean, blue belt, purple belt, brown belt, black belt, you start learning all those things, and now we come into weapon self-defense. Do you feel, as you guys growing, do you like, I have an answer for it as a black belt. I feel it's very, very important, and but do you guys feel that it is a hey, I should know how to defend myself against a certain weapon, or any item that the person is using, for that matter? What are your thoughts on that, from from that perspective, as a blue belt learning jiu-jitsu?
So I think that people should learn how to use a weapon, or about weapons, offense and defense, not to make them necessarily proficient at using the knife as a weapon, because I think, just like jiu-jitsu, that would take a lot of time. It's a very difficult skill. I studied it for a couple years in college when I did eskrima. I studied it for another couple years, several years later, when I did ninjutsu. And the main thing is with knife fighting is, when you do it, you're like, oh, this is not at all like the movies. When you see Steven Seagal in Under Siege, like doing all this close-up stuff, that is definitely not how knife fighting is at all. It's primarily footwork. It's primarily space and distance control. It's actually extremely physical, and there's no margin for error. You get touched by the knife, that's the end of the round, right? Because the reality is, if you were engaged in any kind of confrontation with a sharp instrument, it only takes one hit and you're pretty much done. Like, even if you defensively went like this,
right,
you have very major arteries in your arm, you'll bleed out, and your ability to continue to fight would pretty much not exist after just taking one blow, even if it's a defensive blow like this, right? And so, for the same reasons, I think people should do jiu-jitsu, not so you can become a black belt and beat everyone up on the street, because I think people are like, oh, if I study this martial art, I'll be able to like handle people. I think what I learned going into jiu-jitsu is, like, my first year as a white belt is like, yeah, I shouldn't get into a fight because I'm freaking getting destroyed by everyone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you learn how vulnerable you are. You're like, the reality is, there's a good chance you're not going to win on the street. So maybe you shouldn't get into that confrontation. When I did boxing, it was the same thing. As soon as you get punched in the face, you're like, oh, that's way worse than what it looks like in the movies, right? It's like you're dazed, you're confused. For a brief moment, you can't defend yourself because you're in shock, and you feel like the adrenaline and the rush and all that stuff. So that's also the same reason why I think, if you're in any martial art, yes, you should learn about weapons and weapons defense, but more so the reality of what would happen if someone were to use a weapon on you, right? It's very dangerous. You're very vulnerable, and it's a situation that pretty much should be avoided entirely, because even if you were proficient, one little mistake and it's game over. So that's kind of my take on it. I always thought that there should be a little bit more emphasis on weapons defense and how to use it, just so people are aware of the reality.
Yeah. No, yeah, that makes total sense, man. I mean, because even for ourselves, I one of the instructors that I had a few years back, it was just two concepts. I don't know if it was in Capitol or in Fort Lee, where people think that they can engage with someone who has a weapon, in this case, a knife, a blade,
right?
Where in fact you should make as much distance as possible with a knife, right? Because like you said, it's so you don't have too much room for error, right? Like, it's so fast. And there's another professor in New York who pretty much says the same. It happens so fast, you don't know where it's coming from, and by the time you defend something, it's kind of already in your face. You're already cut. You're already trying to recover.
I was watching this instructor who was teaching about knives, and he brought up a really good point. He's like, listen, I don't care how skilled you are. I don't care what you think you can do. Give a toddler, a 4-year-old, a permanent marker with the cap removed, and just tell them to mark your body.
Oh, that's cool.
Tell me you can avoid that. Tell me he's not going to get you. It's
Interesting.
impossible. You're gonna get hit, right? And that's like a little baby versus a grown man who's trained, right? You're not going to stop them from getting you at you're going to get a mark, right? Yeah. He's like, well, that's the reality of a knife. A guy could just be crazy. They don't have any skill, but just be waving it at you. You know, to me, once a knife is drawn, the whole situation of that confrontation is completely changed. Yeah. You should just, run for cover, basically.
Right. No, I agree. It seems like it's very hard because in Jiu-Jitsu, I mean, at least in the years that I've been doing Jiu-Jitsu, we've trained for knife defense, right? But it always seems very robotic, right? It takes out that reality component from it. It's the person's doing an under knife attack. You're creating space and going for a lock and stuff. So it kind of takes away from what could potentially actually happen in the real world, in the street. If it's an overhand, it's just like a one-timer, and it really resembles like karate 1 steps or 2 steps, if you know what that is, or like an aikido. Okay, throw the punch, or even you did ninjutsu. You mentioned ninjutsu, and you've noticed a lot of times it's just a punch, and it's just you leave it there, and the guy grabs it and does all his thing. I was like, well, he's probably not going to leave the punch there, so it tends to resemble that, right? So I'm going to show you a video, and you tell me, and you said you had some knife training. I want to show you a video real quick, and because I think that this really highlights how dangerous knives are and how much of an injustice we do when we are teaching knife attacks, right? So I feel like we have to come up with a better way of approaching this. So here we go. Let me show you real quick.
I mean, it's tough. The thing, I like that idea of the whole marker thing. I think that's the most realistic, idea because it is true, man. Like, I mean, you pull out a knife. I'm pumping those Reeboks or those, and I'm running, man.
Imagine like the kids class, right? You give like one of the kids a pen. You're like, now you're just gonna mark everyone. It would be mayhem. It'd be almost impossible.
That would be a great exercise to do.
Yeah,
right.
It is.
So I came up with this video. I came up on this video, and it was interesting because it shows you that you see very technical approach, and then the reality is like getting shanked.
Yeah.
So you see it again. Watch technique. Boom, boom, clean.
Yeah.
The reality is like, yo, I'm about to stab the crap out of you.
This is actually Lawrence in black.
Yeah.
This is him attacking. Yeah.
Like he just took the knife just so easy, and now here we go. Reality, like he wants the top bunk, right? Have you seen that?
No, it's true. Like
the top bunk now. But it's crazy because when I actually watched this video after we were training, knife attacks, and I thought like, yeah, I'm confident. If anybody attacks me in the street with a knife, I got this, right? I got this. And then I saw this. I'm like, wait a minute. We didn't train for that. We didn't train for that crazy attacking repetitive motion. And that seems that it'll be impossible to come out alive from, or like in one piece,
The number one thing that we learned when we were training, I mean, yes, you do learn certain forms, right? Just so you're using the knife in the right way, and just so you have a little bit more coordination and bodily control. So you do learn that.
Right.
However, the biggest thing that was emphasized was footwork. And I don't think people really think about that when they're talking about weapons training. But footwork is everything, because the only thing that truly can stop you from getting stabbed is distance. Right?
Yeah.
You can block. I'm not saying that, parrying and certain techniques you can use to deflect someone's attempt, but the likeliness of them being successful is still pretty high, and you'd have to be like insanely trained to have that be successful. Whereas your footwork, taking a back step, keeping someone in front of you, creating angles, much like in boxing and any other striking martial art, is really the fundamental thing, right? Because at the end of the day, if you're far enough, you can't get hit.
Yeah, when you said footwork when it came to training or the whole defense thing, that was surprising to me, to be honest. It's the first time that I heard that. So and it's interesting, But and I think like when it comes to jujitsu, because we're always obviously we all support jujitsu, we're biased to it, we're training in it. But I think like because of it, like you said earlier, because of the training, you're able to understand and you're more aware, right? So now you know what it feels like to, yeah, like you said, your vulnerability. So you know what it feels like to get choked. You know what it feels like to get armbarred.
Right.
You know what it feels like to be in those horrible positions. So now you're going into watching this Steven Seagal movie, and now you think that, hey, you know what? I can, somebody comes up to me, I can defend myself, and before you know it, the reality is happening like in this video. So, but so I think like jujitsu in general, again, it's not that where it's gonna protect you like like an armor, but at least it gives you that mental
Right.
capacity to kind of understand the danger and comfortably, honestly, comfortably run away, right?
Right.
Because you want to be that Steven Seagal, right? Like, oh man, wait, hold on a second. I did see this. I know I can defend myself, but a jujitsu practitioner or any martial arts for that matter who understands will probably say, hey, look, you know what? I don't care about everything that I saw. I don't care what I'm probably able to do. The reality is that there's a huge chance that I can get hurt. Let me just step back.
Yeah.
It's an awakening, right? Like as a white belt going for your first class, everyone leaves that class like, oh my god, wow, I'm very vulnerable. This is nuts. And I don't think after that day, after getting like tapped a billion times, that you're gonna walk around the street thinking, yeah, I think I could handle myself against like 9 out of 10 people. And the only person I can't defend myself is like a really big muscular guy because you just got choked out by someone who was half your weight, right? So that reality check, I think, is really the first step in any lesson in self-defense. Is like, check your ego. This is really how it is. You're just as vulnerable as anybody, right? A
Yeah.
physical confrontation is dangerous for everyone. Nobody's immune. White belt, black belt, especially once you
Yeah.
introduce a weapon, then it becomes even more serious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. I mean, as I say, like even now, like we don't do a lot of stand up, but I feel like you should definitely learn what it feel like, not what it feels like, but how to get punched or what it feels like to get punched in the face, what it feels like to stand up, what it feels like to kick, right? Because those realities in the real world in training, it's 100 times worse out in the street, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
I mean, my brother was talking about it yesterday. Like, man, he got kicked. Like, and man, imagine getting kicked by one of those guys on the street. You don't know them. All of a sudden, they swing that leg and they chop down your thigh, and
Yeah.
it's just a matter of understanding where your level is.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
it, man. So
Absolutely.
let me just plug in. Today's episode is sponsored by Revo Knives. Check them out, RevoKnives.com. Follow them on Revo Knives and Blade Runner Systems, BladeRunnerSystems.com. You can follow them also at BladeRunnerSystems.com on Instagram as well. And I want to thank them for today. So just moving back to our segment, and we're kind of getting close to the hour. We really want to finish up, but one thing I wanted to mention is uh, we were talking about it, and we're talking about the seriousness of training, and really, I believe as a jiu-jitsu instructor, um, we should be teaching weapon defense. I think that we should incorporate that into our general practices. As much as we do De La Hiva, as much as we do burn bolos, we should also put time aside to invest in training how to defend against weapons, knives, guns, bats, whatever. Um, we definitely should be doing that. The second thing too is, as an instructor, I believe we should also set the expectations. What is really expected if you do face or confront somebody in that scenario? Obviously, we always wish and pray that the fact we never get into that situation, but be able to teach techniques in a controlled environment, but at the same time say, hey, you know what, it's going to be 100 times worse potentially. And so that reality, putting them in that situation where it could give them a greater sense of what that could be, I think is very important as well, so that we don't give them a false hope, right? So it's really important. I don't want to seem like I'm coming off as like I'm I'm kind of clowning on the night defense, or the fact that what we're doing now, I think we could do better, all right, or we should continue doing what we're doing. And the other schools who are not incorporating it, they should definitely look into adding
Well, I think I
weapons into
think
the
yeah.
system.
And I think to add to that is not necessarily where jiu-jitsu is not doing a good job, but just in general, right? Again, we're trying to understand, and we feel that jiu-jitsu as a foundation is a great art. So it's just understand the same way that there's a lot of schools, a lot of people who don't address the standing properly, right? And now people are giving false hope in jujitsu and thinking that, hey, pulling guard on the street is okay, right? So I think in general, when it comes to self defense, I think to piggyback off that, like, yeah,
Yeah,
either continue doing it. If you're not doing it, maybe introduce it, or have some type of understanding behind it.
absolutely. No, I think that's definitely important for sure. But yeah, I mean, so I think we all come to a consensus that weapon training and jiu-jitsu should go hand in hand. There should be an opportunity to share that, to show that. And I think all of us, I mean, even for myself, I would love to do a lot more of it. And this kind of goes into transcending jiu-jitsu and maybe looking at other martial arts and taking from them, right? Like you said, I think you said you were training harness, right? That's what you mentioned before.
Eskrima.
Eskrima, right? So taking those arts who are mainly focused on that particular aspect of martial arts, and start incorporating that into your own training and becoming more of a mixed martial artist, maybe elevating your thinking and your approach and your abilities to that level, because I think that's very important, especially if you want to offer your students something that's of greater quality. I definitely think that's important for sure. So we want to move on to this next thing, this final 9 minutes that we have. There is one thing that people may or may not know about Lawrence. He is a meme master.
Yes.
Right?
This is the reason why I came on today.
Yeah, it was, this
It wasn't the weapons, it was the meme.
So we got a couple memes that you've created, and I want you to walk through with us, like, what was your mindset behind it? What inspires you really to kind of get these memes going? Because you put them, I don't know if you share them publicly, like on your personal page or anything like that, but we're all on the same
No,
forum.
this is Rollstar copywritten material. No one else
That
can
makes
use
sense.
it.
But it has me going. I mean, when I have a gloomy day, I can look at the group and I see one of your memes, and it brings joy to my face. Yeah, it brings a smile to my face. So I'm gonna share a couple of them, and you just tell me, like, okay, well, what were you thinking that day, or what inspired you to come up with that? And we're sharing that experience with you. All right, here we go.
No one's safe at Rollstar, by the way. Away from memes.
This was because we were talking in the group chat. I kept on saying to Diego, I'm like, Diego, you got to get more free trial guys, man. I need some rest rounds. I want to because everyone at our school is a tough role. There's no easy role. Everyone, we really go at it, and you always hear in the videos, just stick around. People are going to come and go, and then you're going to get better, and the new guys are going to come, and you're going to be the better guy, and nobody quits. So everyone just got better, right? And so and the few times that some new guys have come, I don't know. I don't know if it's like they didn't stay around. So I'm just like, so we were kind of joking that actually, there's a guy, Benny, that goes there, and he's one of the guys who did stick around. But his first day, he didn't have a belt, so they gave him like a white belt, but it had like a few stripes on it. Oh. So one of the guys there, Milton, basically was like, "Oh, okay, he's got 3 stripes, so I'm just gonna like go ham on him," and pretty much put him through the ringer, and that was his first ever jiu-jitsu experience. And so that's kind of like where this was influence from, but Benny's okay. We just rolled with
he survived.
Yeah, props to him, because he kept showing up even after that whooping. So
that's hilarious.
Yeah, so that's kind of like where that came from.
That's awesome. That's funny. All right, here we go with the next one.
This was well, if you know Milton loves to go for the darts. That's like his signature move. And every time I roll with him, he ends up getting a hold of my neck. and just cranking the absolute daylights out of it. And this was actually after a roll. Like, he didn't quite have the choke, but oh my God, it was so tight. Like, it was, he got it early. That's the worst thing. If I roll with Milton and he gets my neck early in the round and it's like a 5-minute round, it's literally me 5 minutes of peeling his massive arms away from my neck. And so this roll was one of those rolls. Like, it was early. I don't know. I was like going for a pass. I felt it go like around my neck. I'm like, oh my God. And there's like, 3 more minutes of this. So he was cranking and cranking, and then I didn't tap. I probably just should have, because my neck hurt like heck the next day. But afterwards, he was like, oh, he saw my neck kind of go in a bad position, right? And so he was a nice partner. He's like, all right, I'll just go for something else. And afterwards, like, yeah, I let go because I didn't want to hurt it. And I was like, oh yeah, that's nice of you. And oh my God, like after class, I'm like, dude, why didn't I tap? That was dumb.
He let it go at 4 minutes and 58 seconds.
Yeah, basically, like after like 3 minutes.
Sorry,
like,
man.
I didn't want to hurt your neck. So
that's crazy. All right, let's go to number 3.
Oh man.
What was it? Professor Adam came to do the Sunday class, and for whatever reason, Manny here decided to block his car in with like the worst parking job ever. So that's what's funny about some of these memes. They're kind of like inside jokes on what actually happened at class. But yeah, Manny decided to park that close to Professor Adam's car for whatever reason. So that's why that's the
only way he can dominate.
It's the only way he gets side control.
That's it, man.
On, Professor Adam there.
That's hilarious, man. Here you go.
Got another one there. Oh man, Paul.
You know what? So Ahmed unfortunately gets picked on the most. I don't know what it is. I just have like a trillion pictures of him, right? So he gets memed the most. He's like the biggest.
That's it. He's the.
But there's all these pictures. He after rolling, he does this thing where he just like looks like he's dead on the floor. We all do, but for whatever reason, he always gets his picture snapped. So I have like 5 pictures of him just dead on the floor. And so when I saw this one, I was like, oh man, this reminds me of that scene from Saving Private Ryan. So I put him in this scene. It just fits so perfectly.
That's hilarious, man. I think we got a few of them of Ahmed.
Ahmed gets it bad. I feel kind of bad.
One, man. But hey, I mean, if these circulate and we become millionaires, he'll get a cut.
Yeah, he'll get a cut.
Right?
He's definitely there he is again. I don't know what it is. Like every time he gets caught in like the perfect moments, right? So like he's a big inspiration for my meming, my meme guard.
Yeah, the meme guard. Yeah, the meme king.
There's another one. You can blow it up a little bit.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's hilarious because I see he's the one like for sure that you're picking on the most. I think I got one more. Let me see. Hold on.
Oh, this one was the best. This one was really good, man.
You know why I made this one? Because I don't know who was rolling, but Manny was like giving advice, and all I know is the 2 people rolling. He was caught in he had the guy's back, and Manny was like, Kamara, right there. And I'm like, he has 2 hooks in. He has like an arm under the neck, and you're telling him to go for
he had the choke in, I think, already.
Like the guy had the back. It's like Kamara. I'm like, but why? Because Manny, that's his go-to move. Yeah. He gets it from top. He gets it from bottom. He gets it from the side. He's always going for that move. If he has your ankle, he'll go for the Kamara. Right? So that's why he got that meme.
He's a Kimura king.
Yeah,
he's a Kimura king, man. That's it.
That's the last one.
There's a bunch of them, but it was just
man. That's only like
you could spend a whole hour on the meme.
Give a little bit more, man. Like the fascinating part, the memes and the content is great. but you guys have to understand, man, like the speed of it, right? So because like he catches us off guard, right? So all of a sudden, boom, a meme pops up, and it happens so fast that we're all amazed. Like, man, how do you get it? And it's good quality, right? I tried to do it the other day. Erase it on my phone. I was like, forget this. And I even told Lawrence, I was like, I don't know how you do it, man. On the computer is easier or different, but he does a great job, man, with just putting all that content together, man. It does lighten up the day.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
helps, like, also kind of keep the camaraderie. You kind of, when you crack on each other, and it's, we build a better bond together with
Yeah,
your
and you can see, like,
teammates.
it's the same, we pick on Ahmed, Manny, and, like, because they're very animated, it's all love, within the school, like, and it brings, like you said, man, it just has the camaraderie. It brings that group, just things to laugh about, things to kind of like go back and forth with. So yeah, man, thank you, brother. I mean, for as far as the, from our perspective, from like Rollstar, the school, I'm saying I appreciate that. I mean, that brings in, a certain life to the school, man. So, very much appreciated,
Yeah,
man.
and I like the vibe. I know some schools are definitely more serious and disciplined, and maybe, I don't know. For me, you got to be able to laugh at
Yeah,
yourself,
man.
and
There has to be a balance, I mean, it can't just
yeah,
be, yeah. But this is, yeah, man. Those are funny, man. There's more that we can go through the whole hour, man, with just going through those memes.
Have you thought about creating like a separate page, like an Instagram page that just posts all of that stuff?
I I thought about it, but the only thing is some of them are kind of inside jokes,
Okay, you might
So
not get
I don't
it.
know if everyone would get them, but I also know myself. Like I can get myself distracted making memes, thinking of them, right? So if I started a page, man, I don't know, I
Nice
might,
meme.
It's just kind of an endless hole of just meme making.
yeah, I
Stop
could do
stop
that. I
making
could do that
stop
all
making
day.
knives and just make memes all day.
No,
Yeah,
no more knives.
That's what's up,
But
man.
yeah,
Well,
man, that's
Lawrence,
cool,
man,
man.
thank you so much, man, for coming. We're at the top of the hour. I want to give you 30 seconds for your final words, any shout outs or anything you want to say. Uh, this is your time. The floor is yours, man.
well, I appreciate you guys having me. And yeah, the knife brands are Revo knives and Blade Runner Systems, and we're really looking to, anything I'm passionate in, I always try to cross them over. So we're really trying to involve the brands with jiu-jitsu, with fighting, with MMA. We've sponsored fighters in the past. We actually sponsored Kat Zagano. A while
Sweet.
back. Yeah. So she actually had
Oh, you
posted
got
some of her
mine.
stuff on her page.
You
That
see,
was pretty
exactly.
cool.
You see how he unmuted? You saw how Fernando unmuted when you mentioned Catanzano?
You see?
You mentioned Catanzano. He was like, "Oh, unmute,"
Yeah.
and
Alpha Cat Room.
Yeah. So she was actually sponsored by us for a little bit too. Um, so we bring all of our interests into our passions. So Revo in the future, I've spoken to Diego about it, but we'd love to like host small competitions or tournaments or events, and just generally take my passion in knives and let it support the sport and the art of jiu-jitsu. That's kind of the ultimate goal.
what he's saying is, on Tuesday we're gonna defend ourselves with real knives, with butterfly knives, against Lawrence.
Come to Tuesday open mat.
Come to No, but yeah, man, very, we appreciate it, man. Like, again, very good quality in your products. So everybody check them out. We thank you for the support for today. We'll definitely get involved with all this, connecting jiu-jitsu with your passion. And then, topping off with the memes and those funny moments, man. So again, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Fernando, last words.
You got
You're muted,
a
brother.
mute.
When that happens. Thank you so much, Lawrence. I really appreciate you taking the time, going over your passion with knives. So I thought that was like really, really awesome. Also sharing your jujitsu journey and the camaraderie that you have at Rollstar. So I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Definitely, and I appreciate you. I appreciate the fact too that you took the time out to come up and share with us your story, not just the jiu-jitsu journey, but also the start of your two companies. So I recommend everybody who's listening to go and check them out on Instagram, at Revo Knives, BladeRunnerSystems.com. Check out their products. They have some really, really cool stuff. I'm hoping that I have an idea of one that could tie in some jiu-jitsu into it. So we'll talk offline about that. But with that said, guys, go, make sure you have a great week. Train hard, train smart. Until next week, we'll get together again. Bye, siempre. Take care.
Bye,